The Illuminati dumping money into China for the past 30 years. These businessmen fucked all of us.
Some people would say this revolution is characterized by the fight of robots against human beings. And we will win this fight.
中华要灭亡，无奈先死绝。倭寇仇今日，我儿还家之，上马杀敌，方显党而本色。
I believe the progress that we have made in the partnership sets us up well for the new world order.
There is an agenda to starve humanity. There is an agenda to create a global famine. They've been telling us it was coming for years. And when you look at what's happening in the Strait of Hormuz, you see, there's a real mechanism through which this could happen. I do know that the Iranians are working closely with Beijing. I do know that the Iranians are working closely with Moscow. And I believe, and I have believed for a long time, that the next world war that the evildoers are setting up is going to involve Russia and China coming after the United States. And I think this one we're supposed to lose. I think that's the plan, that the United States is going to lose the next world war. The Chinese are preparing for war against the United States. There's no question about it. Anybody who has studied communist China will tell you they're teaching their children to prepare for war. They are preparing the weaponry to wage war on us. In fact, I would argue they are already waging war on us. They call it a people's war, unrestricted warfare. And basically everything short of bombs and bullets, those will come in the next phase. Based on their public statements, it sure seems like they thought this was going to be a cakewalk. It was going to be like Maduro, you know, we're just going to grab the guy and it's all going to be over and everybody's going to say, wow, isn't the U.S. military amazing? But what happened here is clearly not what the American people were told was going to happen.
The Strait of Hormuz and the fact that the other countries aren't willing to come in and at least keep that open. Why is the world not willing to help at least keep it open when it can create mass famine and actually harm a lot of people in their own country?
All right, I see what they did here. They spent the past 30 years beefing up China's military, with cheap labor, and building a force in China in order to attack and take over the United States. Now, there's two timelines. One is a preemptive nuclear strike that will proliferate into global nuclear war, which will destroy most of the world by attacking China with a nuke, and then everybody pops off. Now, the other timeline is allowing China to take over the United States of America. Now, I know how that sounds, but they fucked America. They fucked up. And now China has the upper hand and can take America. I mean, they destroyed America. So, basically either way, we're pretty fucked. It's either a nuclear war that kills everybody, or China comes in, takes over the United States. Now, if there is a nuclear war, and most people are wiped off the face of the earth, it will be Agenda 30, which is the Satanic New World Order, which they want to bring about. They want the nuclear war. That's why they set this whole thing up. China and the Illuminati dumping money into China for the past 30 years. These businessmen fucked all of us.
What is that? The truth.
Every time a new baby is born, the Federal Reserve issues a secret birth certificate printed by a company called the American Bank. That way, the government can use people as currency to back the debt they have with the World Economic Forum, which owns the central banks of every nation on Earth. But the WEF is just a front for the Council on Foreign Relations, which masterminded the 9/11 attacks as a pretext to invade Iraq, take the oil, and install fast food chains to make people slow, fat, and easily abductable by the shape-shifting reptilian aliens it works with. Now, back in the 30s, FDR made a deal with these reptilians to exchange people for technology. That was the basis of the New Deal. But ever since, they've been slowly replacing all the world leaders to create a nuclear holocaust to make global warming real for their takeover. That's how they made up the Cold War, by sending Leica to space to bite Neil Armstrong while Kubrick was faking the moon landing. Now they're using satellite waves, contrails, and measles vaccines as mind control, and fluoridating the water to keep people's gold fillings intact so they can be sent back to, you guessed it, the Federal Reserve, where all the gold and birth certificates are stored by the real puppet master, the world monarch, who is himself only the servant of the all-seeing eye who controls everything in the world.
We got 400 years and the planet's done.
Whoa.
Diseases start showing up, and weird funguses that take you out that didn't before. And in 400 years, I'm such an idiot. Why did I say that out loud?
I don't think that's a bad...
Numbers that we received before the looking glass was shut down, dismantled, was that there would be a 19% probability with an 85% confidence that the disaster would occur, that there would be a transitioning from timeline 1 to timeline 2. But that then means that there's an 81% chance that it won't. And so the individuals who want to carry the negative, I'm convinced that it's going to occur, are not presenting the facts. The facts are, this is the material that we have available, that we know.
So what you're saying is the Illuminati, to get back to that thread,
yes,
is basically the side that believes that the transition is going to occur from one timeline to the other.
Not only do they believe that it will occur, they want to provoke it.
But how does it benefit them to provoke it? Why should they want to be P45s?
They don't. The living ones don't. They're looking at the P45s as a means to an end for them. They're not going to live that long. They're just going to live a normal human life and die. So they want the control for themselves. The fact that the P45s, that's how immoral these people are. The fact that the P45s are wanting us to, at their stage in their own development, have a disaster which justifies their own history, is being used as a means to an end by the Illuminati, who would like to see that the population is culled so that they can gain greater control.
The Illuminati dumping money into China for the past 30 years. These businessmen fucked all of us.
Out their Navy, we knocked out everything. It's amazing. We have the greatest military. We make the greatest military equipment. And now, if you notice, I said you got to make it faster. Got to make more of it because we need it. All made in America, but we make the greatest. You know, we had an attack. 100 missiles were shot by Iran at a very important thing that we had. I won't tell you what it was for certain reasons. 100 missiles going 2,000 miles an hour were coming at this element of importance, tremendous power and importance. And of the 100 missiles coming at us, 100 missiles were immediately shot down, shot out of the air, fall into the sea. Think of it. Not one missile got through. That was the Patriot system. It's great.
What did we do to deserve this?
Well, we ruined the planet, we dispossessed, imprisoned and slaughtered First Nations people, we enforced gender roles, we systemized rape, racism, misogyny, transphobia, homophobia, ableism, classism and unsustainable food industries. We allowed fossil fuel companies to operate our elected officials like ventriloquist dummies from hell, raping our planet for economic gain. We turned the prisons and military into big business. We sold our land, our resources, our water table and the port of Darwin to the Chinese, who we're now in a trade war with. We empowered the church to such a degree it's now just a tax haven for pedophiles, with the ability to manipulate government policy and mandate legislation on women's bodies without their consent. And we bred dogs to a superficial aesthetic level so they can no longer breathe. But pugs are so cute the way they suffocate when they walk. Their eyes are pointing in different directions because they're asking both owners to kill them.
I know most about Gates, because I've written a book about him, and that what he calls philanthrocapitalism, which is you use philanthropy to make yourself rich, and you use it strategically, and that's what he's done again and again. He's gotten control of the World Health Organization so that they mandate vaccines all over the world, and the companies that make those vaccines are Gates is, in many of them, the major shareholder. And he did the same thing with the Green Revolution. He got a hold of the regulatory agencies in African countries and forced them to to change the nature of agriculture. There's 20,000 generations of agriculture of people growing crops like sorghum and plantains and yucca and all these plants for subsistence. And he said, no, we're going to transfer them all to these, GMO monocultures of corn, and then we're going to bring in companies that he owns, Kraft, Coca-Cola, McDonald's, these big food companies, processing companies, to buy that, and that's going to be the deal. And then, of course, during COVID, all of that shut down, and you had, there's 30 million Africans now as a direct result of Gates's policy who are now on the edge of starvation.
Tell that story that you shared with me a couple of years ago about the vaccines that Gates sent over supposedly for women that, I don't know, was to control birth control or what?
That's another, I think the real tell was what happened with the DTP vaccine, which is diphtheria, tetanus, and pertussis. Because of Gates pushing this shot, it's now the #1 vaccine in the world, DTP. And it's mainly given in Africa. It was that particular shot is discontinued in the United States because it was killing or badly injuring 1 out of every 300 kids who took it. We ended it in Europe and the United States, but Gates is giving it to every kid in Africa. And in 2017, he asked the Danish government for money to support this program, and it said, we've saved 20 million kids. The Danish government said, can you show us the data? He couldn't. So the Danish government went and did its own study, and they had records of 30 years of this vaccine in a country called Guinea-Bissau. And they looked at the records, and what they realized in retrospect, which they were never seeing, is that the girls who were getting that vaccine at 6 months of age were 10 times more likely to die over the next 6 months as children who didn't get it. Wow. And they were dying of things that nobody on the ground had ever associated with vaccination. They were dying of anemia and bilharzia and malaria and dysentery and nobody had made the connection that it's only the girls who got the vaccine who were dying of those things, that the other kids were much healthier. And the Danish government had retained the greatest vaccine scientists. All of them were pro-vaccine. A guy called Peter A. Aby, who's like a deity in that space, and another guy called Sigrid Morgensen. And a whole team of scientists knew that, and those scientists started speaking up and saying, you got to discontinue this vaccine, and their careers, Gates made sure their careers were destroyed. So that's when I understood that he actually understands what he's doing. And, you know, this is not just him being hypnotized. He knows that this is wrong because this science was indisputable. And it really made me wonder about what his motivations are.
顶部的发射盖呢也已经打开了。
我们的无人机蜂群已经自主识别到指控目标，接下来我们要进行一个自主打击任务。来看一下我们的无人机第一视角的画面。 看到我们的无人机已经成功锁定目标，并离目标越来越近。我们看一下能否打中。
中华要灭亡，无奈先死绝。倭寇仇今日，我儿还家之，上马杀敌，方显当而本色。
前进，停止，切换手套和枪在握把控制。看，我现在已经被狼群包围了。 召唤机器狼的方式有几种呢？除了语音控制，还能够通过我手上的数据手套让它看懂手势。除此之外呢，如果想在射击时实时操纵机器狼，还可以通过联动设施对它进行操作。那么在我身边的呢，就是由中国兵器自动化研究所自主研制的最新一代机器狼群。相比于上一代，它们有了更强健的身躯、更智慧的大脑、更实战化的本领。那么最新一代机器狼呢，可以挂载更多的武器设施。那么我们看到这只机器狼身上背的是微型导弹，这里呢还有榴弹发射器。那么这样的火力呢，能够对目标进行火力压制。根据任务不同呢，这些机器狼有着3个响当当的名字。负责侦查的叫暗影，负责打击的叫浴血，负责保障的叫极地。那么我现在所在的这个场地呢，能够模拟城市废墟。今天呢，将在这里，机器狼要对模拟城市巷战中的目标进行清剿。接下来呢，我们就在实战化的场景当中来看一看极地、暗影、浴血的硬核实力。相比于上一代，它还在增稳方面有了很大提升。看，它们现在迅速通过了坑洼不停的废墟，几乎是跑起来的。它的最高时速能达到15公里，这样的爆发力让它在城市废墟、暗滩、沙滩中穿梭，如履平地。它的4肢关节有12个自由度，模仿真狼更加灵活，能够随时切换步态。背负25公斤，还能轻松跨越30厘米的高台，这是因为它的电击功率大幅提升。这种适配复杂地形的能力，让机器狼能在山地斜坡冲锋，也能在城市废墟渗透，真正实现无死角作战。不仅如此，它们还能协同决策。每只机器狼实时共享感知信息，形成共享视野的大脑，自动协作，共同判断，一起行动。此时抵达目标区域后，2只暗影机器狼协同构建了地图，并传到3连屏的指挥终端。3连屏指挥终端是机器狼群的指挥作战室，能够实时收集前方信息，统一调配多只机器狼，甚至是空中的无人机，做到空地一体化，协同出击。现在我和负责保障的极地机器狼已经跟上了前方阵地负责打击的浴血机器狼的脚步。此时呢，浴血机器狼正在抵近模拟目标，准备对模拟目标发起射击。那么他们正在调整射击的姿态。它搭载的激光发射器一旦完成瞄准锁定，模拟目标头顶就会冒出烟雾，标识命中。通常在实战当中，机器狼是自主识别、自主瞄准，由人工来进行确认打击。根据任务不同，它们还能够更换不同的武器载荷。
浴血1号前进。
操作人员通过语音指令遥控浴血1号，背负4连装微型导弹，率先模拟瞄准目标。
发射。
抵近目标后，借助数据手套操控浴血2号，以榴弹发射器模拟对群体目标实施火力压制。深入战场时，则通过电子握把操控浴血3号，搭载191步枪模拟完成精准打击。机器狼群由此构建起轻重搭配、梯次衔接的系列化火力体系，显著提升单兵伴随作战效能。那我们看到这样一型装备，它的外观似乎和枪没有什么关系，而这是它的弹匣。它采用的是内置枪械的方式，现在它内部呢是装配了18.4毫米口径的霰弹枪。那么在它的边上，还有这样一型专用枪械，这是9毫米口径的冲锋枪，没有传统的枪托和握把。那么这样的一体化无人飞枪采用的这样内置枪械的方式呢，能够有效提升它的隐蔽性。
射火箭弹。目标已击中。前方发现敌人。躲避。消灭他。敌人撤退了。
I could argue in the developed countries, the big winners are countries that have shrinking populations. Okay, that's something that most people never talked about. You know, we always used to think shrinking population is a cause for negative growth. But in my conversations with the leadership of these large developed countries that have xenophobic immigration policies, they don't allow anybody to come in, shrinking unemployment, shrinking demographics, these countries will rapidly develop robotics and AI and technology. And if the promise, I didn't say it's going to happen, but if the promise of all that transforms productivity, which most of us think it will, we'll be able to elevate the standard of living of countries and the standard of living of individuals, even with shrinking populations. And so the paradigm of negative population growth is going to be changing. And the social problems that one will have in substituting humans for machines is going to be far easier in those countries that have declining populations. And so for those countries that have rising populations, the answer will be education, and so rapidly develop. You know, for those countries that do not have a foundation of rule of law or education, they're going to be left. That's where the divide's going to get more and more extreme. And unfortunately,
the New World Order.
We are enslaved in a society where we will not be free to think or feel or do anything other than consume. Slaves for work.
Now you're telling me that climate change is fake?
I think it will be done, hit the style. The armed forces are going to kill us. They'll follow orders, it's what they've been trained to do. How long before they use this racism to make soldiers turn on their own? Living in a police state.
It's already begun. Controlling and monitoring the movement of the individuals within the society. Putting chips in passports, ID cards, CCTV.
They're using this orchestrated ruse to convince the public to accept Big Brother-type control. Mass genocide on a scale never seen before. More staged events, orchestrated and maneuvered conflicts, vaccines. It could come in vaccines. Women are being encouraged to get sterilized. What if they're using cervical cancer jabs? Eugenics is the pseudoscience culling the excess population.
Fake science.
And using draconian methods, and this global holocaust will probably come out from under the flag of the UN.
13 out of every 14 people killed, destroyed, and murdered.
Destroy your television sets. Now. You must listen to no orders. That's all I can tell you.
President Trump is a con man and the ultimate narcissist who wants the world to revolve around him. When his fantasy of becoming president came true, his narcissism developed a pathological dimension. I consider the Trump administration a danger to the world, but I regard it as a purely temporary phenomenon that will disappear in 2020 or even sooner. I give President Trump credit for motivating his core supporters brilliantly. But for every core supporter, he has created a greater number of core opponents who are equally strongly motivated. That's why I expect a democratic landslide.
The reason that all your computer screens are blue lit, the reason none of them are red lit, the reason none of them pay attention to circadian biology is because that original technology was developed in a government program that Bobby Kennedy knows about, and I happen to know about because I went to medical school at LSU. For those of you who've never heard about Operation Paperclip, you think it's all conspiracy theory. So at Tulane Neurology and Tulane Neurosurgery in the 50s and 60s and 70s and 80s, the CIA started a program there where they would do all these crazy things to monkeys. The CIA wanted to see how they could control things utilizing different things like drugs and things like that. Where the neurosurgeons got involved, which is my clade, we would drill tops of the heads off, put wires into the thalamus, put electricity in there, and kind of see what kind of behavioral changes we could have. One of the guys that was in that program was a guy named Professor Delgado. When he saw that we could control the behavior with the wired device, he said, what if we do it wirelessly? So he checked it in monkeys and checked it in bulls, and it turned out you can do it wirelessly with RFID chips and semiconductors. Then the CIA took it to the next level. They said, well, since this is electromagnetic radiation, what if we did it through light through screens? And it turns out you can. And that's the reason why all your computer screens have the frequencies they have. So why is this all important? Well, the person that set this meeting up between me and Bobby is the patent attorney that made sure that Google and Meta have those things so they can control the things that we all do. Where did the original idea come from that started off in MKUltra with the CIA? You're going to be surprised when you hear this. It came from the mafia in Las Vegas. They wanted to build a new city in a desert. They enclosed it all, blacked out the windows, invented slot machines that were blue lit. And they found out that they didn't have to take a gun, stick it in your face to steal your money. Then they even got smart. They said, let's give people free alcohol while they're doing that. And they found out they got the money quicker. And that's when the CIA got the idea to start this program. That's really how it started.
Our impulses are being redirected. We are living in an artificially induced state of consciousness that resembles sleep. The poor and the underclass are growing. Racial justice and human rights are non-existent. They have created a repressive society, and we are their unwitting accomplices. Their intention to rule rests with the annihilation of consciousness. We have been lulled into a trance. They have made us indifferent to ourselves, to others. We are focused only on our own gain. Please understand, they are safe as long as they are not discovered. That is their primary method of survival. Keep us asleep, keep us selfish, keep us sedated.
The United States has known of similar problems of China infiltrations of our voter data going back to 2020, and they've done nothing about it. They have kept it a secret, and I think that that is what the goal here is, to come up with any narrative to diminish what we're going to show.
Agency effort to protect the 2020 election by surging coordination and collaboration with our partners across the national security space. In conclusion, because of these and other efforts, on November 12, 2020, government and industry representatives from the election security community issued a joint statement reflecting a consensus perspective that the 2020 election was the most secure in U.S. history. As you move out from Election Day, there will be tabulators that may have internet connections to transmit the vote from the precinct to the county level to the state. Again, security controls in place, and as long as you have the paper, can't hack paper, you can run that process.
In Savannah, Georgia, there is a a smart thermostat in one of the tabulation rooms that is talking to a tabulation server and reporting the votes back to China. And that was traced by a Microsoft engineer. And he brought it to our attention yesterday. So that's being monitored. We already knew that there was a huge overseas problem. And it's not just social media. Your votes In 29 different states, your votes were going to Frankfurt, Germany. They were ending up on a server owned by Clarity Elections in Frankfurt.
Media claims have been made that the machines were not connected to the internet, but according to the forensic report, that is patently false. The experts examined both Dominion and ES&S machines, and both were connected to the internet using wireless technology. This is a fact that the machine vendors knew well before the election because their proposal to pitch for the contract included information about internet transmission and wireless capabilities. Some of the forensic evidence for this fact includes the wireless chip made by the company Telit. This is a picture from the forensic audit of the chip inserted into the machine to transmit information wirelessly.
From hundreds of LA County poll workers and then storing it on servers in China. Fox's Lucas Tomlinson is standing by with all the details. Lucas.
That's right, Laura. The founder and CEO of that Michigan software company was arrested on suspicion of stealing data on Los Angeles County poll workers. Prosecutors in L.A. said they found some of the company's data stored on servers in China. Now, here's the backstory, Laura. The Connect company based in East Lansing won a 5-year, $2.9 million contract with L.A. County for software to track election worker schedules, training, payroll, and communications.
They discovered a Michigan company whose election software and apps had been sold and were in use across quite a number of counties and states in the United States. That software is said to be communicating information on 1.8 million poll workers. Their names, their children's names, finances, location, even poll location schematics of the places that polls are located and how they're put together. The most concerning thing is they found this information residing on the Unicom internet backbone on a server in China.
China, that's nothing like the typical play and rest setup here. Kids as young as 3 and 4 handle tasks you'd expect from adults. They wash clothes, cook meals, and even clean up after themselves. Each child has their own mini outdoor stove, just their size, where they prepare their daily food afterward. They line up to wash dishes, then move on to weaving baskets, knitting scarves, or even sewing clothes on kid-sized sewing machines. They juice fresh fruits from start to finish, practice clay building, draw, make decorations, and solve puzzles. Girls can even try out hairstyling and makeup, giving them a head start as future stylists. This hands-on approach has kids eager to come every day, excited for what they'll tackle next. Would you let your child dive into such an interactive and skill-building kindergarten for more high-quality and interesting content?
红色是表示你的专注力显示得很高。
Teachers at this primary school in China
蓝色是走神了。
know exactly when someone isn't paying attention.
白色就是你可能跟网络还没有连接好。
These headbands measure each student's level of concentration. The information is then directly sent to the teacher's computer and to parents. China has big plans to become a global leader in artificial intelligence. It has enabled a cashless economy where people make purchases with their faces. A giant network of surveillance cameras with facial recognition helps police monitor citizens.
现在把村里2个地主押上来。
所以，这就是你小时候梦寐以求的长大吗？
清早出门半夜归，茫茫人海我是谁？岁银几两苦中求，忙忙碌碌几时休？
Just breaking moments ago, the FBI indicting a brother and sister in connection with the placement of an explosive device at MacDill Air Force Base in Florida. The FBI says Alan Zhang, who is believed to have planted the device, is currently in China.
The device did not detonate, but minutes after the device was planted, a 911 call reported that a bomb had been placed on the base. When that phone call came in, no location for that bomb was in fact given in that 911 call.
The device was found on the base 6 days later. Thankfully, no one was hurt. FBI Tampa also arresting the suspect's sister, and Mary Zhang, who is charged with accessory after the fact and tampering with evidence. No motive was given, but MacDill Air Force Base is the headquarters of U.S. Central Command.
Scare you, but to prepare you. So China is mapping the ocean floor as it prepares for submarine warfare with the U.S.
I'm here for all of the witches.
And the last factor I want to mention is resilience, the capability to bounce back, because there will be certainly what we call the black swans, the unpleasant surprises which will come in our way. Some people would say this revolution is characterized by the fight of robots against human beings. And we will win this fight.
Professor Klaus Schwab was born in 1938 in Ravensburg, Germany, where Nazi crimes against humanity were committed. His father, Eugene Wilhelm Schwab, was the managing director of Escher Weiss Ravensburg, a company that used slave labor to manufacture weapons of war for the Third Reich. While Klaus's father was at the helm, the Nazi Party awarded Escher Weiss Ravensburg the title of National Socialist Model Company. Years later, Klaus Schwab joined the board of directors at Escher Weiss Ravensburg, where he played a key role in the development of South Africa's nuclear weapons program during the darkest years of the racist apartheid regime. Today, Klaus Schwab is the founder and executive chairman of the World Economic Forum.
If you'd like to meet the people who are supposed to repair the state of the world, or give a piece of your mind to the bankers who helped get us into this mess, we can tell you where to find a lot of them. The World Economic Forum.
Founded in 1971, the World Economic Forum is an international private organization which receives billions of tax-free dollars from its members and their global enterprises. Every year, the WEF brings together its members with world leaders, big pharma executives, tech titans, Hollywood celebrities, media personalities, and internet influencers to meet in the secluded mountains of Davos, Switzerland.
It is a tiny town folded into the Swiss Alps, a village where you could bump into Bill Clinton, Bill Gates, the head of Google, and the Queen of Jordan, all in one place. A lot of reporters cover the forum, but few get inside. It turns out there are two Davoses, one you see and one you don't. After hours, there are hundreds of private parties where deals are done. People who can't be seen together in public can meet here.
Your Royal Highnesses, Excellencies, distinguished heads of state and government, the future is built by us, by a powerful community as you here in this room.
Klaus Schwab, the founder of the WEF, is particularly upfront and even proud of his ability to shape and influence world politics.
I created the community of global shapers as a means, as a force to shape our common future.
And of course, their Global Young Leaders program is a grooming ground so that when they ultimately infiltrate cabinets,
We penetrate the cabinets.
they will likely tend to govern a certain way.
Nobody will be safe if not everybody is vaccinated.
The names and the countries he mentioned ended up being some of the most dystopian and authoritative during this pandemic.
Names like Miss Merkel, Vladimir Putin, and so on.
Other names? Jacinda Ardern, Sebastian Kurz, Mauricio Macri, Mark Zuckerberg, Jack Ma, Gavin Newsom, Stéphane Bancel, Chelsea Clinton, Leonardo DiCaprio, Sanjay Gupta, Dr. Leana Wen, Alexander and Jonathan Soros, George Soros' sons, and several of the Rothschilds. And of course,
Now who could represent such a world better than you, Prime Minister?
In 2014, Klaus Schwab called for the Great Reset,
We need a great reset.
which he positioned as the solution to the world's most urgent issues. The dark reality of Schwab's agenda is detailed in his best-selling book, COVID-19, The Great Reset. His endgame mission is to replace independent governance with a top-down controlled, one world government and a central bank-controlled digital currency.
One of the victims of Jeffrey Epstein did say he shifted into like a reptilian-like figure when he was raping her. But yeah, she said she didn't say it for a while because it was like too embarrassing. Sounds too crazy.
Yeah, it sounds nuts.
I saw Epstein shift in front of my eyes. It was very, very frightening. It was like a weird hologram and it had like big black eyes. It was like reptilian, draconian, alien sort of thing. And it's just something that I had to explain to myself because I saw him turn into something. You know, it's not an easy thing to talk about because I can understand that a lot of people wouldn't understand it if they haven't seen it. But I saw it. And, you know, I'd like to be lie detected on it. I'd actually love to be lie detected on it.
But it's kind of the same, whether it's demons or reptilians. To me, not much of a difference. It's clearly the same entities, whatever you believe.
I remember a while ago reading this thing about how Princess Diana said that she saw the Queen and the royals shapeshift into reptilians.
Crazy.
Yeah, it sounds crazy, but even this sounds crazy. Like, this was in the email where it said George Bush 1 claims the abuse of a male minor by Bush and claimed ritualistic acts, including the dismemberment of infants, the removal of their intestines, and the consumption of feces, meaning they would eat the feces that was in the intestine. Like, this is, see, even that, you don't even have to get into reptilian stuff. Like, that in itself.
I'm here to talk to you about these FEMA camps.
They don't exist.
So why was it put into that bill?
What in the hell is this? Coffin. It's hundreds of thousands of coffins.
And if they had to get rid of people or dissidents, they got the caskets for it, don't they?
Yes, and we found stockpiles all over the country.
In 2003, I had a patient in my drug-free medical practice who was a head of state. And one day she said, you know, it's almost time for the great culling to begin.
The what?
That's what I said. The what? She said the great culling, C-U-L-L-I-N-G, when you thin the herd. I said, what are you talking about? She said, it's almost time for the useless eaters to be culled. And she said, those are the people who are consuming our non-renewable natural resources. I said, who are the people who make this decision? She said, we, the aristocrats.
Congressman Steve Cohen of Tennessee agreed to talk. I'm here to talk to you about these FEMA camps. I'm very disturbed about them. Why would we be building these things all over the country? For what purpose?
Well, we wouldn't, because they don't exist. It's just a figment of some people who have concerns about maybe Martians or other creatures coming to infiltrate our society, thinking that there are such camps. But
so
there are no such camps.
There are no such. So why was it put into that bill? It's in a bill, so it's put into the bill. It doesn't exist. There are no FEMA camps anywhere in America.
No, there aren't. But they're not people that have been taken there, you know, by some green monsters in a machine.
We redid a lot. As you remember, I made Space Force, and they tried to end it as soon as they came into office, and they had a revolt in the military. We created Space Force. That's the first time in 78 years since the Air Force that something like that's been done, creating a new branch.
I think that it's really a fulfillment of a dream that we had together with my leadership team when we started in 19. The first week we met in January of 19 in California, and to set up the goals for the next 5 years. And one of them was by 2023 we will reduce the number of people in the world by 50%. I think today this dream is becoming reality.
Stop economic and population growth, or else our planet will not cope. And as you know, this report has sparked a long controversy.
This war is really a turning point of history, and it will reshape our political and our economic landscape in the coming years. But we also are at the tail end of the most serious health catastrophe of the last 100 years. COVID-19, and we have to reinforce our resilience against a new virus possibly, or other risks which we have on the global agenda. We also have to address urgently the issue of climate change and all the other issues related to the preservation of nature.
We're developing, through technology, an ability for consumers to measure their own carbon footprint. What does that mean? That's, where are they traveling? How are they traveling? What are they eating? What are they consuming on the platform? So, individual carbon footprint tracker. Stay tuned. We don't have it operational yet, but this is something that we're working on.
There's going to be people of means who are going to travel, and then there's going to be people maybe who of lesser means who might actually be able to use an Oculus or a Magic Leap or some other kind of device to travel to the same place, but from their own couch. But in many ways, it's actually going to create even more distance between those two people that psychologically, and I think that we've experienced this through social media. In many ways, it's brought people closer in certain ways, but actually created this remarkable divide because it's even more visible, actually, the divide.
And then finally, we cannot hide away from human population growth because, you know, it underlies so many of the other problems. All these things we talk about wouldn't be a problem if there was the size of population that there was 500 years ago. All these things we talk about wouldn't be a problem.
We are the first species on the face of this earth to be aware of evolution, to be aware that we are affecting our own evolution by everything that we do. The babies we eat, the food we eat, the wars we fight. The babies we eat, the food we eat, the wars we fight.
The World Health Organization has been working since 1974 on vaccines to create permanent sterility.
And going forward, we are entering our sixth five-year strategy starting 2026. We're accelerating our work. We will reach more children with more vaccines faster than ever before. And not just more children, more individuals, because we have vaccines we have the HPV vaccine for adolescents as well, and who knows, the TB vaccine is on the anvil. And we are significantly accelerating our work, and we are really thankful to our donors. Prime Minister, thank you so much. At the launch of our investment opportunity, the government of Spain announced that it will at least commit to a 25% increase. We're extremely thankful to you for that. Extremely thankful to the European Union and the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation for hosting our replenishment event. And I think all of you are Gavi ambassadors. Really thankful to you for the support that they lend to our work.
Doctor, the response is going to be, you're crazy. How can you say this stuff?
I show them the documentation.
Now, this is pretty shocking.
This process has already been ongoing. To make matters worse, we know that the vaccines that were illegally approved by the FDA contain a substance called squalene.
Squalene, an organic compound used in vaccines to stimulate the immune system and increase the response.
If I inject you with squalene, your immune system will attack the squalene, but then it starts attacking all of the parts of your body. What does that look like when you meet a person to whom that is happening? It looks like Gulf War syndrome. It looks like every joint in the body swollen and intolerably painful and immobilized.
This is in these shots they're going to give us?
It's in some of them, but the U.S. government has a trick up their sleeve.
Which is?
They will induce a pandemic using the nasal mist vaccine, which is a live attenuated virus. That means that if I take it, I can infect you. You're going to get the flu. Everybody around us is going to get the flu. Then the United States government, based on their statements that they've already made, will say, oh my, we have a pandemic. Oh my goodness, we don't have enough doses. So we'll admix squalene at the 90,000 injection stations that the Department of Health and Human Services announced that they will ship the vaccines to.
People lining up, sometimes by the hundreds, for an H1N1 flu shot.
What that means is a Holocaust, a genocidal Holocaust. Men and women will sicken and die, and those who survive will be infertile.
On this virus.
It's a pretty serious situation.
I bet your ass it's a serious situation.
Stern's flu has now been declared a national pandemic.
What the hell did you put in that vaccine?
Created a flu that sparked the demand for a vaccine that doesn't work. After everyone in the country is vaccinated.
And the world?
He'll have murdered millions.
Nope, you don't have it. And we have taken that virus and embedded it in the vaccine of the Stern's flu. I knew it. I knew it.
He created a panic and now everybody's begging for the vaccine.
No. Demanding it. With all the entitlement of a first world country. Yes. And now we have exactly what we want. Hundreds of millions of Americans lining up, offering us their arms, and letting us give them our creation.
I'm pretty sure when every vaccinated person starts dying, they'll trace it back to undetectable virus or not.
What we are doing is far bigger than death.
You're killing people.
I told you it does not kill. That was the amazing epiphany we had. We didn't have to kill to accomplish our goal. We intend to stop human reproduction for 3 generations. The busy, endless global assembly line of babies will grind to a halt. You're sterilizing people? Uh-huh. In the first 5 years, we'll start to see major birth rate declines as teenagers vaccinated today hit their childbearing years. I love people.
How? Why would
Doing what our government or citizenry is too spoiled or self-indulgent to do. We are saving ourselves from ourselves.
halting overpopulation?
100 years ago, the global population was 1.7 billion. 2011, it reached
7 billion.
People live too long, die less often, fuck too much, shit out babies like...
In 2050, they say it's going to plateau.
It'll be too late to save an Earth that bears any resemblance to a world we actually want to live in. We have to live modestly. We have to live selflessly. And as you know, we're not that good at...
I was writing a story at one point that was kind of like that, where it was some detective, and he starts realizing that there's some people that keep disappearing. And it's kind of a missing persons case. And it kind of turns into like a lot of missing people. And he starts kind of looking over, he kind of put the board up, they got their faces up there, and realize all these people are really large. And then all of a sudden it turns into this total sci-fi thing where it's like actually the aliens have like kind of infiltrated the government. They've like engineered this, the corn products, all the syrup, and they're basically like, the government's like, yeah, for whatever technology, we'll take this and we'll feed our people this, and the aliens are harvesting the fat people to put in their rocket ships to sail around.
Power their rocket ships,
yeah,
like whale oil.
We're fossil fuel, like they're just kind of
Wow.
harvesting.
Why not?
Harvest.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Fossil
They're
fuel.
coming. They're going to suck us up. They're going to put us in a fucking engine.
Yeah, the twist would be on the like all of a sudden there's a very large family and they're not being harvested. Like, what's going on? It's like, well, it's just they're genetically that's their genetics. They haven't been fed the corn syrup.